you're like, whoa. And then the mayor usually messes me up.
We'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out this afternoon, where we'll review the board action items that will be formally addressed next Tuesday evening, May 2nd at 6 p.m. And Bill, we're going to be entering the 5th month of the year next week.
It's hard to believe.
It's just, I
moving
just
fast.
turned the calendar over to 23. Seemed like yesterday.
Moving fast.
But, Mr. Burrow will review those action items. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. The first item is a resolution. It's Resolution R2389, a resolution acknowledging receipt of the City of Hot Springs financial statements for February 2023. And our Finance Director, Karen Scott, will present.
Good afternoon. Monthly financial statements are issued to keep city management and constituents apprised of the financial condition of the City of Hot Springs. The February 2023 statements will be provided as an attachment to your board action request, and staff recommends acknowledging receipt of the February 2023 monthly financial statements.
Very good. Any questions of Karen? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R2390, a resolution awarding a bid to CMR Construction and Roofing LLC for certain goods and services related to the replacement of the roof at the Music Mountain Pump Station in the amount of $91,190. And our project manager, Todd Pillar, will present.
Thank you and good afternoon. The Music Mountain Pump Station was built in 1982. It has its original roof, and after the recent storms, it's a very critical pump station in our water distribution system, and it houses 3 150 horsepower pumps and 2 250 horsepower pumps. So we'd like to keep it dry, and we're going to rip off the old roof and put a new roof on it. And we had to bid this twice. We bid it back in March, and we didn't get any bidders. And so we bid it again, and we got one bidder, CMR Construction, which I believe, Denny, you're very familiar with them. And they've done our transportation depot roof in the past. And so they're going to do our Music Mountain pump station. Their bid was $91,190, which surprisingly came well under our budget. We had budgeted $125,000 for it. And it was budgeted out of the 2023 water production building repair account.
Any questions on this? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have any, is this included in any of our insurance coverage for the storm damage to the roof?
It's been in this condition for a long time. We're just afraid that it's going to start leaking, and we have a lot of expensive equipment in that station. We just
Right.
going to take care of it. I have not looked into insurance.
So when was the last time the roof was replaced? Any history on that?
No, from what I understand, it's the original roof back from 1982.
It's a flat roof?
Flat roof, concrete, flat. It's got that membrane on it with the pea and gravel, you know, stuff on top.
Yeah.
I don't believe this is a result of damage, just
Yeah, it's
It's just
old
old.
age.
40 years.
yeah,
Hey, 82's not old.
exceeded its life expectancy.
Okay.
I think you got it all you could. Any further questions? Thank you.
Next, Resolution R2391, a resolution awarding a bid to Core & Main LP for the Hot Springs Creek Sewer Pump Station, wastewater valves, and appurtenances. Appurtenances, I couldn't get that out. This is an amount of $153,105.14. And again, Todd.
Yep. Thank you. These are the valves and the different accessories that go with the valves that are in our Hot Springs Creek pump station. We've got the screen that we sent off to be upgraded. It's shipping back Friday. And the board recently approved 2 300 horsepower solids handling pumps, and these valves go on those pumps in that station. And the valves take 25 weeks to get here. So they'll be here a little bit before our pumps will, but the valves come with a 2-year warranty once they get here, and we're going to use the 2020 wastewater bond to fund these. Again, the amount's $153,105.14, and there was the lowest bidder out of 2 bidders.
Any questions on this topic? Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. You were mentioning, Todd, that it's got a 2-year warranty. Were there any other bids that have a better warranty, or is 2 years kind of about average for those type of valves?
The other bid we received was really non-compliant, or not responsive, because they didn't fill out all the items. They didn't bid on all the items. So, and in our bid documents, we required a 24-year warranty. I don't know if that answers your question.
You said we require a 24-year warranty?
I'm sorry, 24-month, 2 years.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Did I mispronounce that?
Yeah,
Two-year
but-
warranty.
Okay. So we require a 24-month warranty, and this one that we did get does have 2-year warranty, so that does meet that requirement. And you were saying the other bid left off quite a bit off
Many
their
items that
application?
we needed to complete the project.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Very good, thank you.
Just one more.
Oh, yes, Director Webb.
Thank you, Mayor. What's expected lifetime for these valves? If we got a 2-year warranty, how much time
Oh.
can we expect to get? Can we get
20,
more?
20, 30 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why is the warranty so short? If we can get 20 or 30 years, why do we just get
Most of
2-year
the time-
warranty?
Most of the time, we only get a 1-year warranty. But because these are special check valves that go on those 300 horsepower pumps, we thought it'd be advantageous to take an extended warranty. Most of our warranties on our equipment we purchase is 1 year from the date of shipment or a date of startup, whichever occurs first.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Resolution R2392, a resolution awarding a term contract to H&S Maintenance, Inc. for services related to lot cleaning, boarding, and securing of structures authorized by ACA 1454-901, and our Chief Building Official, Mike Scott, will present.
Thank you very much. This is a resolution awarding a term contract to H&S Maintenance of Hot Springs for lot cleaning, boarding, and securing structures. The Hot Springs Property Maintenance Code allows for the clearing and cleaning of vacant and abandoned properties within the city of Hot Springs. The 2023 lot cleaning, boarding, and securing structures contract was open for bidding on February 8th of this year. This term contract for 1 year with 4 additional 12-month extensions upon mutual agreement. Bids were then opened on March 13th. And at that time, we received 1 bid from H&S Maintenance of Hot Springs. Their bid was 1.24 cents per square foot of cutting and cleaning the properties and $45 for the securing of vacant structures. These prices were compatible with prices in the past, which were 1.25 cents and 45.50 cents per opening. And these funds are included in the 23 planning budget.
Any questions of Mike? Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I may have missed you saying this, but what was the cost included in this resolution?
It's 1.24 cents per square foot that we clear and $45 per vacant structure opening, securing.
So you don't have a general budgeted amount overall?
Yeah, we budget $40,000 a year, I think
Okay.
is what's in our budget for cleaning properties and securing properties. Most of the time, we don't spend quite that much, but it's close.
Will,
Go ahead.
thank you, Mayor. In our packet, will there be some description as to what the specifics are for the maintenance and services and cleanings to take place?
Well, we don't know because we're doing mowing, and so it depends on,
Depends on the
how fast
structure.
grass grows. Did somebody mow that lot that they own, or did they not? And so we don't ever know. Usually at the end of the year, we start having to be selective because our budget starts running loose, out. So we try to prioritize, what we mow and what we don't. We don't have a clue which houses we're gonna have to secure until we know. I mean, there's no way of guessing that, so.
But the work that is performed via this contract is directed by you or your designee?
Yes, yeah, it's by surveying of the neighborhood services officers, the manager, James Hardage, or it could be by the citizens, filing complaints, or it could be by the police officers notifying us of some situations. So if it's boarding and securing, so we have a lot of avenues that feed us information, and we base what we do on that information.
They are routine expenditures that we have every year, annually.
So the budgeted amount is similar each year, but once they reach their budgetary constraints,
We're done.
they're done.
Yeah, so usually around September, we have to start like, okay, we're running out of money. James, you need to pick which lots you're gonna have to mow. The ones that are, on the main thoroughfares, more seen. We gotta make
Right.
sure we clean those up. Sometimes we have to, prioritize. So,
Very good. Any further questions? Thank you.
Next will be your first item, I'm sorry. Yes, next will be your first item under new business, R 2393, a resolution declaring certain structures located at 113 Vantage Street a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. And again, Mr. Scott.
both the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code and the International Property Maintenance Code address the issues of unsafe structures and their condemnation. Condemnation is the final step in what can be a long process and is only used when all other efforts have been exhausted and the owners are unable or unwilling to repair the structures to safe and habitable conditions. 113 Advantage is a single-family structure located in District 2. Unsafe conditions at this house include structural damage to the foundation and floor joists, damaged or missing exterior walls, siding, and roofing, damaged or missing windows and doors. In order to serve the owner, Ms. Jane Crawford, the notice of these proceedings, the notice was hand-delivered to her Quapaw Nursing and Rehab here in Hot Springs. Due to the unsafe condition of the structure and the owner's inability to make repairs, we recommend condemning for the purpose of removing this structure.
Any questions of Mike on this item? Thank you.
Harmon, if you could go back one slide. So this action will also include that accessory building that you see there in dilapidated condition.
Any questions? Thank you.
Next is resolution R 2394, a resolution declaring a structure located at 210 West Marie Street a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. Again, Mr. Scott.
210 West Maurice, this is also a single-family structure, also located in District 2. The Planning Department has been working with owners to bring this structure into compliance as far back as 2011. The condition now warrants action by the board. Unsafe conditions at this address include visible holes in the roof, soffit and fascia, missing siding, and broken windows. An interior inspection was performed with the owners on October of 21, and it was noted that the holes in the roof were have allowed damage to the ceiling, walls, and floors. Floor joists were noted to be weakened, and areas of the interior were avoided to prevent injury. Notices were issued to the owners of the property, Mr. Robert Jones and his granddaughters, Kimberly and Jeanette Jones, all of South Carolina, via certified letters, and all the signature cards were returned signed. Due to the unsafe condition of this structure and the owner's inability to make repairs, we are recommending condemnation for the purpose of removing this structure.
Any questions of Mike on this property? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R 2395, a resolution awarding a contract to GovOS Inc. for the annual subscription, software, and services related to short-term residential management, compliance, and tax collection and distribution, and approving a budget amendment in the amount. This item is in the amount of $76,870, and Ms. Selman, our Planning and Development Director, will present.
Thank you. This contract would support city activities tracking and managing compliance with the adopted short-term rental policies and regulations, as well as assist with lodging room rental tax collection and distribution. The expense will be shared between the City of Hot Springs Planning and Development Department and Visit Hot Springs. The total price is $76,870 annually. to be paid $51,242 from general fund on behalf of the planning department, and $25,628 from Visit Hot Springs. And this contract will also support the complaint hotline. There will be a live operator available for people to call.
Any questions of Ms. Salmon? Director Garcia?
Thank you. This isn't the previous, this is a new.
This is a
company.
new vendor, yes.
And that's, the things that you mentioned in the hotline to speak to a live person, these are enhancements that didn't always occur with the former vendor, is that correct?
Most definitely an enhanced level of service. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor, I would like to point out that this will have a budget amendment. However, that is the due from, basically from A&P on their portion of the contract's cost.
So the previous agreement, we don't have anymore, and this is a new agreement, or is this in addition to the previous agreement?
This will replace the previous agreement, which runs out at the beginning of July. And, yeah.
Will you explain to us how the section that deals with tax collection, how does that going to work?
No, I can't explain that at all. That's Visit Hot Springs, and
Okay.
they will handle all of that.
Your A&P tax, Mayor, is a voluntary tax. It's self-reporting. This will be a tool by which A&P can track properties that are being used for this purpose, and therefore be able to compare what their rentals show per night, and compare that to what they have paid in.
Very good. Any additional questions? Thank you.
Next and final item is your first ordinance and only ordinance of the evening. It's ordinance 2310, an ordinance amending PD plan development zoning at 360 Lakeland Drive to add recreational vehicle park and usual and customary accessory uses to the PD approved use, adopting a regulatory PD site plan and for other purposes. And again, Ms. Selman.
Thank you. The applicant is Mr. Keith Matthews with B&F Engineering / Crafton Tull, representing property owner Garrett Enterprises Incorporated. The site is at 360 Lakeland Drive on 42 acres, known as Shorecrest Lake Cottage Rentals. There's 330 linear feet of frontage on Lakeland Drive, 426 feet on Lake Hamilton. There are 31 residential units on the site at this time. They are in various states of disrepair. Right now, those structures are located on the rear half of the property from the crest of the hill to the lake. Currently, there are 2 driveways from Lakeland Drive onto the site. Bordering the property on the east and west is planned development zoning, residential lake zoning to the north, and unzoned Lake Hamilton to the south. Surrounding and nearby land uses include single-family residential, condominium, mobile home park, apartment complex, commercial marina, and boat storage. This was part of the large annexation to the city that was known as Area B. And following annexation, the Board of Directors assigned PD plan development zoning, and the existing built environment and uses on the site were accepted as the de facto plan development use and site plan for regulatory purposes. This is a site that didn't really fit any other zone, and so PD was assigned to it. The benefit of PD zoning in a case like this is that when a new use or a change to the arrangement of uses on the site is proposed, then Planning Commission recommendation and Board of Directors approval is required before that change can occur. So this application is both a text amendment and a PD site plan amendment. The request to develop and operate a 33-space recreational vehicle park within a specific and regulatory site plan. There would be accessory buildings, and 2 future open-air pavilions. All of the existing structures on the site are to be demolished. Significant site modification would occur that would remove the existing hill that is now between Lakeland Drive and the lake. There would be 1 vehicular access point with this plan. There would be a wrought iron gate located in the middle of the property. Gates would be open from 7 until 7. The item is located in Board of Directors District Number 5. The internal drives will be private. Maintenance will be the responsibility of the owner. And the applicant provided shoreline activity permits from Entergy for a planned boat ramp and retaining wall at Lake Hamilton. Those are not subject to your approval. The project landscape plan includes introduced ground cover, turf grass, flagstone, riprap, trees, and shrubs. Privacy fencing and the use of landscaping is proposed to separate the property from the neighbors. And there will be both city water and sewer to the site. And those are readily available in this area. We have an updated site plan with this. The applicant's engineer, Keith Matthews, submitted multiple site plan revisions following Planning Commission's meeting. The revised site plan addresses neighborhood testimony as well as Planning Commission's 9 conditions. And City Engineer Gary Carnahan has consulted numerous times in the past week with Mr. Matthews, and yet another set of revisions resulted from those consultations. The revisions improve entryway width and turn radii. They move the gate further into the site from Lakeland Drive. They would provide a privacy fence along the western segment of the Lakeland frontage. They would relocate the dump facility away from a neighboring property line, add 2 restrooms, reduce stormwater runoff to Lakeland by regrading most of the site toward Lake Hamilton, and also installing privacy fence without barbed wire. And it is very unusual to entertain plan revisions in the interim between Planning Commission's recommendation with conditions to approve and the time that board would consider the project. However, these projects directly seek to correct prior identified site plan deficiencies, and they also address Planning Commission's 9 proposed conditions. The revisions do not change either the proposed use of RV park, the access location from Lakeland, or internal circulation. The revised site plans will be included and referenced for board approval in your packet. Most of the revisions apply directly to technical standards, including improved stormwater drainage and vehicle ingress and egress. And you will find also in your packet detailed review comments from City Engineer Gary Carnahan. The staff finding to Planning Commission was that this project and development plan comply with the requirements of Hot Springs Code and other codes that apply to this review, subject to compliance with numerous conditions of approval. The recommendation to Planning Commission was to approve it with conditions, because only when those conditions are applied does this comply fully with the requirements of Hot Springs Code 16247. So Planning Commission advertised their meeting, called for testimony, and 8 of 10 speakers expressed opposition. And the nature of those comments will be provided in detail in the staff report to you. After considering the record prior to and during the meeting and hearing testimony, Planning Commission recommended by a vote of 7-1 that the Board of Directors approve an ordinance amending 360 Lakeland PD uses and site plan with the staff report findings and recommendations, including 8 original conditions and adding a 9th one to read that privacy fencing without barbed wire shall be constructed and maintained along the perimeter. In case you were wondering, why are we talking about not putting barbed wire on a fence? That's why. Regarding Planning Commissioner Erickson's comment as to incompatibility, her comment in voting no was that it was not consistent with planning and development initiatives. The application does show that removal of more than 20 feet of a hill in the center of the subject property would occur with this plan. Forward Hot Springs 2040, the adopted comprehensive plan, establishes a vision for environmental protection corridors along the lake shore, among other locations, stating that in these areas we should seek to minimize site disturbance associated with overload grading and to reduce impervious surfaces and using pervious paving systems. But Hot Springs 2040 is an aspirational document. We're working hard right now, thanks to you, to put together in Code Forward regulations that will implement that plan, but at this time, those regulations are not in effect. So I wanted to bring that specifically to your attention, that at this time, we do not limit site disturbance along the lakeshore in our regulations. So, many of the citizen comments to Planning Commission detailed concerns regarding physical elements of the site. The revised site plan responds to many of those concerns, and we have city engineer comments noting that with these changes, all of the concerns that engineering had have been met. In conclusion, the April 24th, 2023 revised site plan fully addresses Planning Commission conditions number 2 and number 9. The ordinance now reflects 7 ongoing conditions because the 2 conditions, number 2 and number 9, now are resolved by the revised plan development site plan. The revised PD site plan will become regulatory if approved by the board. Everything needs to be on that site, just exactly the way it is depicted on the site plan. Planning Commission's recommendation is to approve an ordinance with conditions to permit an RV park subject to a regulatory site plan, in this case, the revised site plan dated April 24th, 2023, with 7 conditions.
Any questions of Ms. Selman? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. In the information that you're including in our packet, would you also include any comments and notes from our stormwater director? Because you said there were comments from Mr. Carnahan, and I would also be interested in the review and comments from our stormwater department, and also the number of RV sites. I didn't hear that.
33.
And where the check-in and check-out will be planned for in their plan.
Yes, that will occur at Cornerstone at the Garrett office.
But, these are some things I didn't hear you mention that I want to make sure was in our packet. It was mentioned that the properties there are in different stages of disrepair. If the planning department has citations or other notices on the property, could that information be summarized and included in our packet? You said there was 31 units, I believe.
Yes.
But there's going to be 33 RVs, pads.
Mm-hmm.
And the Board of Directors assigned the PD designation after the annexation based on the recommendations from the planning department.
Yes.
I mean, that was a lot of work to review all of the properties that were annexed at that time. Thank you. Just asking for complete information on this in our packet.
I think you will find that and more.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions of Kathy? Director Dobbs-Smith?
I heard the applicant state that she was trying to attract long-term tenants there, not just nightly rentals. She said she was trying to get long-term. What's the difference between a trailer and a long-term RV? I mean, I know that there's motorhomes, but recreational vehicles could include the kind that are towed there and left. And I heard that several of the neighbors complained that there were problems on that site resulting from the housing that's already there.
Yeah, the RV park use is a use to occupy on a short-term basis vehicles. A trailer, I'm not sure if you mean a travel trailer.
There's
or-
those travel trailers that people pull behind.
Yes.
And there's those, I think they're called fifth wheels that you pull, and
Yes.
they look like an RV to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what the definition. I know in a housing rental, it's 31 days or more, right? But I didn't know in a RV park, I mean, what would stop people from just pulling up a trailer and leaving it there? Because this is not, I'm understanding it's not a mobile home overlay.
No, and this is a request for an RV park. We don't have any such thing as a long-term
But the
RV
applicant
park.
stated that. That was confusing to me. She said she was trying to attract long-term RV
That-
rental
That's
sites.
probably a question she can answer better than I can.
I wasn't asking you to answer that. I just wondered
Yeah.
what the difference is. I'd never heard that term, and I'd never thought about it, that you could have a long-term RV park.
I'm assuming that we'll find out next Tuesday what type of infrastructure is there for water and sewer, for example. That certainly would limit the time of their stay.
Director Beard, or Director Dobbs-Smith, did you have a follow-up question?
No, and I'm not trying to get you to answer what's in this lady's mind, but I heard her say that, and so I thought, well, what's the difference between a trailer park and a RV park that people stay a long time in?
Director Beard?
I'm just going to ask my questions next week. We
Okay.
can visit this area, correct?
Okay, well, I
Yes.
saw you raise your
Yes.
hand and.
Oh, no,
was
well, that was part of what
Okay.
I had. Thank
Any
you.
additional questions?
As indicated to the board in an email earlier, this is not a quasi-judicial matter. This is a legislative function. I know that there are
Kathy, don't leave.
dozens of emails that have come across your screen. And so whatever information that you take into account is fine, but obviously your decision still has to be made here.
Very good. Kathy, will you include our ordinances or our guidance as to what a planned development is, and perhaps how this was selected to be planned development when you were doing your zoning of the structure of the property that was annexed?
I can provide for you the spreadsheet that went to the board at that time.
And I know, like a planned development, a little bit that I do know perhaps, that if you have a property and your proposed plan and it's been approved as a planned development, if you're going to alter that, it's kind of a major undertaking to alter that. And, to the degree that, I guess, we assigned it, it wasn't necessarily something that was asked of us, perhaps it was. I don't know if you worked with property owners on property that was annexed and said, this is what's perhaps best for you. I don't know if there's some history on that you might be able to share. But at the end of the day, planned development is supposed to be fairly, very detailed and somewhat offer some protections to everybody, because you know exactly what's going to be there. And now we're doing some changing in that regard, from cabins to RV vehicles
Right.
and fifth wheelers or whatever might be brought onto that site. So anything that you can offer in regards to plan development might be helpful.
Okay. In terms of the history of plan development on this particular site?
Well, the general term of plan development and how we apply it, how it can be modified, and then anything specific to this site. Does this property then, given some of the comments that were just recently made, does it have an additional outbuilding or something with washer dryers and some community showers or anything like that?
It has a restroom. I believe there are two restroom units in a restroom building. There is kind of a administrative storage type building that might have, I don't know, lawnmowers, things that would be involved in site maintenance. It is in the application stated that self-contained units are their target market, and given that, the facilities that would be provided on site would be minimal. And so not kind of your KOA type setting where you have a convenience store and 16 showers each for men and women. I mean, this is a much smaller scale, intended for people who have a self-contained recreational vehicle, providing water, wastewater, restroom within the unit. That's really all I know
But
about
it will have hookups and everything, right, for water?
There will be
and-
hookups for water and sewer, yes. Power.
Okay. Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Due to this proposal revolving around RVs, which are considered vehicles, will a traffic study be provided to us too in this packet? Do we have one in this area?
No, there is no traffic study involved in this. The site itself has already got 31 residential units on it. And the difference in traffic generated between 33 RVs and 31 either long or short-term residential units would be a negligible difference, with the decrease on the side of the recreational vehicle use. So no.
Director Garcia?
Will you include in our packet how many of these 31 cabins are actually occupied currently? And could the city attorney provide any information if regarding the legality, if you have an RV park but it's not a self-contained unit, if they can prevent them from renting a space there if it's a pop-up or any other type that doesn't even camper trailers that do not have restrooms or are not self-contained. I don't know if you can once you have open to the public for RV park, can you discriminate against the type of RVs or campers? I don't know, but if there is something pertaining to that, if it could be in our packet, that would be helpful.
I'll certainly ponder that between now and Thursday, try to get it in your packet. If I don't have a solid answer for you before Thursday, then I'll provide that
Tuesday.
otherwise. With regard to the occupancy of each of those buildings, I don't know how we would determine that. We don't have the authority to go
No,
on
the
the
owner,
property.
if the owner could provide, the applicant should be able to provide that information.
They appear to be unoccupied.
That was my understanding, that all but one was unoccupied. So the difference between 31 cabins with one occupied and 33 occupied RV pads would be different
At the moment,
at
yes.
the moment.
Any additional questions of Ms. Sullivan? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. This is just to confirm what you were sharing with us earlier as far as the surrounding property and their zoning. This, of course, is planned development, but can you share with us again the surrounding properties, how they are zoned? I know there was a residential lake that was mentioned.
Yes,
Would that be to the north?
it is to the
Or-
north. Yes.
And what about, and it was the south, that was the part that was open?
That is on the lake. It is unzoned, the lake itself.
Oh,
And on the east and west, those two are planned development. And to planned development, if you assign planned development, typically you're getting a list of uses and a site plan. When these places were annexed, there was no site plan, and what was taken as the de facto site plan was pretty much the aerial photography of the area at that time. And that was to remain unchanged unless an application, as this one has, comes before Planning Commission and the Board of Directors to give tremendously specific information about what use they plan to do and how they plan to organize it, how access will operate, how circulation will occur around and in the site, availability of utilities and all that.
Anytime lands are annexed, you're going to have some pre-existing conditions, right? And so, as Ms. Selman is trying to explain, some areas easily identified as commercial or residential. What happened on this parcel and the one adjacent on each side, literally a snapshot of the site plan and the uses being made on the site become the approved uses. Anything beyond that now has to go through the Planning Commission and ultimately to the board in order to change that zoning. An amendment to a PD is no different than someone's request to change from R1 to R2, from R3 to R4, or what have you. What we have is what was annexed. We didn't choose it. We didn't
Approve it.
We didn't designate it. It is what it is.
And
Go ahead.
my understanding of that is that basically we grandfathered it in, so to speak, that it remains, it was annexed in, so it remains its usage at the time. Anything different now that it's in the city is up to us to decide to approve or not, because we don't know if that had been in the city limits at that time, if it had been approved to be what it is now.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yep. And one of the goals in assigning zoning at the time of annexation is to minimize nonconformity so that people are able to continue to use their land as they have been using it while as a part of unincorporated Garland County. There are a lot of reasons to avoid nonconformity. And the PD was a default on some of those very unusual properties.
Any further questions of Ms. Selman? Thank you. And I
Thank
believe
you.
this concludes our agenda action items that will be formally addressed next Tuesday evening, May 2nd, at 6 p.m. right here at City Hall. Immediately following the agenda meeting, we'll have a work session. So kind of stay close. Thank you.